Hey, welcome to Susan Likes This and That. I am her husband, Louis. We are here today with a garden bed that has been supplied to us by the Garvee company. They reached out to us and asked us if we would do an unboxing and show you guys their product, so we agreed to do so. In this video, we're going to take it out and set it up and show you what it is. And then in a future video, we're actually going to put some plants in it. A little cold here right now. We've been in Central Florida, so we really don't want to put any plants in it right now. But we will be going through a video, what it looks like, the unboxing, putting it together. So check back with us in a little while and we'll get right to that. All right, we're back. And I have my handy dandy razor knife. Again, make sure when opening boxes you use caution, right? We don't want to damage anything inside. So don't stick the knife in too far. We're just going to kind of score the tape here a little bit to get it loose and open the top. Oops, let's see if we can go this way so you're not seeing my back. All right, so far so good. All right, let's put that blade away and set that aside. All right, the packing looks pretty good. Nothing obviously damaged right off the start. Take these corners out. I like when companies do this. This is a handy dandy little string that actually gets you to the bag that has all of the parts and stuff in it. So let's try to lift this box out first and then see if we can get to that. All right, oops. So here we have, very nicely packed, a lot of cushioning. I like that. Again, that's our tag to get to where the screws and instructions are. Let's take the packing off the corners. This is a little heavy, right? I'm not sure what the exact weight on it is, but it is a little heavy, so be careful when you're working with it. All right. Let's get that razor knife and cut some more of this tape here. And again, you see this is a nice kind of cedar box here. Again, while I was saying to be cautious with the razor knife, you know, if you stick the razor knife in too far, you could score the wood, which you don't want to do. But so here's one part. Packaging in between the layers to protect them. That's nice. This looks like the ends. Some hardware. Set that right there. It's like a liner. Set that down there. And again, right, the string with all of the screws and stuff that we're going to need to put it together. More padding between the layers. Here's the legs for it. More sides. So far, I'm very pleased with the way that it's packed. The parts all look good. They're all labeled nicely. I don't see any obvious damage, so that's good. And this looks to be the last piece. Or two. And here at the very bottom is the instruction book. All right, so what we're going to do next is take a minute to make sure I have all the parts, read through the instruction book real quick, and make sure I have the tools I need, and then we'll start assembling. So check back in a second. And we're back. So here's our instruction book. I took a minute to read through the instructions to make sure I understand everything that's going on.
Wait, you a man read the instructions?
Oh, it's one of those things that you got to do, especially when you're trying to help people learn how to build a new product. So remember I said bag of parts, right? I took all of the stuff out of the bag of parts. Here's all the hardware that we're going to use. I like everything's nice and clearly labeled with the letters. Very good. And as I went through here, again, everything was labeled really well. So let's take a look at the first page here. These are all the parts that we should have, and we do, which is good. And then, oops, second page, the hardware, and our very first step, which is what we're going to do right now. The only thing the instructions did not include is the tools. It didn't tell me what tools I would need to assemble it. So that would have been nice, not a deal breaker, but hey, I'm a pretty smart guy. I can figure it out. So let's get started on step number 1. We need parts number 1, 2, 3, and screws letter A. So here's our bag of screws letter A. Here is part number 3, as you can see by the, whoa, there it is, the number 3. And it smells very nice. The cedar smell of the wood is really nice. You're going to like that. Here's parts 1 and 2. So let's see what our instructions say. We are to take part 3. Make sure you have it this way with the V's oriented down. On this side, we need leg number 2. Oh, and I got them stacked up all wrong. So here's leg number 2. We're going to insert this into here. Goes together very nice. And then we're going to secure it with 2 of the A screws. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Probably should have got these out of the bag before we started filming, but not a big deal. So the tools you're going to need are a Phillips screwdriver and a 10 millimeter open wrench or a 10 millimeter socket, right? So 10 millimeter and a Phillips screwdriver. From what I can tell by the hardware, I think that's the only tools you're going to need. If you want to be brave, you can use a drill with a Phillips bit, but only if you're experienced, right? If you're inexperienced with using tools, you could end up stripping the screws. So be careful about that. So I'm going to be careful, and I'm going to start the screw with my screwdriver like so until I feel that it's biting into the wood. And we'll do the same thing over here. And I'm going to take my power drill and make sure I got it on a slow speed, and I'm going to use that to run the screw down. And you see how gentle and slow I did that. That's to make sure I don't get the screw too tight and split the wood. I just want to seat it. I don't want to tighten it all the way with the drill because, again, I don't want to damage the wood. So now I'll take my Phillips screwdriver and go back and make sure that it's nice and tight, which it is. All right. So we got 1 leg on. That's leg number 2. Let's put leg number 1 on. Ooh, wrong bag. Where did the A's go? They're hiding on me. There they are. Nope. There we go. So far you can see the assembly's pretty easy. Things are going together good. I like it. I like the simple instructions. I like the clear marked parts. Can't wait to get this thing fully assembled so we can put something in it. Not exactly sure what we're going to put in it, but I'm sure we'll figure something out. All right. Get that secured. Good. Good. All right. So here's our first end piece. And in the instructions, it tells us that we have to do this 2 times. So I'm going to put together the next one. Check back in a second. Okay, so we've got the 2 end pieces completed. Set those aside for now. Move on to step number 2. You see we need pieces 6, 7, 8, and 9, which I have laid out here on the table, and some more of those letter A screws. So one thing the company did, which I like, if you look here for part number 6, they put a line on the bottom so that you know that that is part 6 and that is part 9. So I'm glad they did that to distinguish between 6 and 9 so you don't get it confused. I mean, they're obviously different, so may not be that easy to confuse, but hey, it happens, right? So we have 6, we have 7, we have 9, we have 8. Just make sure that you follow the diagram and that when you're putting this in, you see how these holes are not centered. They're more towards this side of the board, and that's what goes up, right? Looking at the photo here, you see the little holes and how they're up opposite where the little feet are. So that's how we're going to put it in. So that's going to go in there. We'll put 9 in there. And then put on the other leg, push everything together, and we will put in our screws. Something that would have been nice is if they had actually put pilot holes in these little pieces right here. Again, not that big a deal, but it would have made it maybe a little bit easier to get the screws going in there. So we'll go ahead and get this going. Again, be careful with the drill if you decide to drill. You don't want to split the wood. All right, come on, big guy. There we go. All right. And then finish it off with a Phillips screwdriver to get it nice and snug. And we're good to go. Hopefully this is nice and square. If not, we may have to loosen these to square it up, but we'll figure that out later. So on to the next step. Okay, moving on to step 3. As you can see, we need our pre-assembled end piece that we did at step 1, and this new part, step 4, and this bolt and nut, which is part B, coming out of the B bag over here. So let's get those parts together. Here's the end piece. This is part number 4, and we know that because it has a sticker on it right there that tells me. So this is supposed to go like this. Looking at the picture, and we're supposed to put, actually, I'm doing it wrong. It's supposed to go like this. There. No, that still doesn't make sense to me. Let's see what we're doing. Okay. See this end here with the shorter piece? Oops. That's the end that goes in here. So it fits in between that V part right there. Now we're going to take one of these bolts, and we're going to put the bolt in from the outside all the way through. And you can't see back here, so I'll flip it over. All right. So we'll put the bolt on there. Maybe. If my hands still work the way they used to when I was 20 years old. Come on. Oops. Gee whiz. This is really not as hard as I'm making it look, trust me. There we go. All right, snug that up. Grab the other bolt, run it through. Get this nut on. All right. So here's where we'll take our Phillips screwdriver, our 10mm wrench, hold the nut, and tighten the screw down. All right. Just be careful as you're tightening it. I mean, you just kind of have to have a feel for it. You'll see the screw head start to squish into the wood a little bit. And that's pretty much when you know you have it tight enough. You don't want to get it so tight that you crack the wood. All right. So again, looking at the directions, we have to do 2 of these. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble the next one, and then we'll move on to step 4. All right, moving on to step 4. We have all of the pieces that we've assembled so far, and we're going to put those together. As you can see, the legs go in the middle, the bigger pieces go on each end and get secured together with the D bolts, which I have right here. So we have this side, This is going to lay right here like that. And then we'll put the bolts in here to hold it together. Yes, it is very big. That is a big planter. Pretty exciting, actually. All right, I'm going to put the bolts in, tighten it up, and then we'll move to the next step. All right, now we're moving on to steps 5 and 6. So you see we have our assembled bench. We need parts number 5, hardware C, and hardware B. So looking at the directions, what we're going to do, part number 5, this is also part number 5. Another thing I wanted to mention, I'm really glad that the manufacturer put these little stickers in an area that will be hidden when the assembly is complete. This way you don't have to go through the bother of picking these little things off, which sometimes can be a pain in the butt. So we have one part 5 already placed. The other part 5 is going to sit right there. So now I'm going to get the hardware out, bolt it together, let you look at that, and then we'll do the other side. Check back in a sec. Okay, we have our parts 5 secured. You can see we got the screws in here, and then on each end we also have 2 screws. You can see the nut coming through right there and there. So this is all, we got parts 5 put together on that side. So the next steps, which happen to be steps 7 and 8, a duplicate of this. Again, we have 2 more part 5s. We're going to put them on this side and hold them together with the bolts just as we did. So check back in a few seconds and we'll have that side done as well. One thing I forgot to mention when you're putting on part 5, right? You see one side has holes, one side does not. So make sure the side with the holes go to the bottom, because there's holes in here that you're also going to have to put some bolts through. So little hint, make sure you put them on that way. Otherwise it'll get confusing when you can't find the holes lining up the way they're supposed to. All right, the final step in putting on these side panels is to use these B bolts and nuts and go in these 4 holes right here that hold this on. Now, if you follow the directions tell you to put in these C bolts and these B bolts. It doesn't tell you, but you assume it means tighten them down and then put these bolts in. My recommendation is that you put all of these bolts in first and then tighten them down. So when you get to the step where it tells you to put these bolts in, go ahead and put them in. Just don't tighten them all the way, because otherwise it's going to be kind of hard to get these bolts in here if the holes aren't lined up properly. So we're going to go ahead and put these in and get everything tightened down. Be back in a sec. Still filming? All right. Well, I hate dead air, right? They tell you if you're a DJ on the radio, dead air is a bad thing. You don't have chatter going when there's somebody on the screen. So just to give you a little background about me, I am a manufacturing engineer by profession. I've been building stuff for almost 40 years. I have a degree in industrial engineering from the University of Florida. Go Gators. And so when I give you my assessment of these directions and how easy this thing is to put together, know that you're getting somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, right? I've been taking complex engineering designs and writing work instructions on how to build some very complex parts for a long time. So Again, my helpful hint for this is make sure you put in all these bolts first, then tighten them down. It'll be a lot easier. We're going to go to the next step, which is putting on the decorative rim around the top. Okay, we're getting to the point where we're about finished up making the decorative rim that goes around the top. We have parts 10, 11, and 12. Now, when putting these together, make sure that you have them laid out the right way. You can see you have these holes. So make sure you have, the same holes facing up, right? That you have these holes to the inside, this part too, these shaped holes facing up, and this is how these parts go together. So this is just going to slip right there. This is going to slip in here. And then we have a nice long screw that goes in back here to hold everything together. So we're going to make sure that everything's nice and snug. And run this screw in. Again, stopping before it's fully seated so we don't split the wood. Oop. Tool belt's in my way. All right, make sure everything's held together nice and tight, the way it's supposed to be. Run the screw in almost all the way. Tighten it down with the handy dandy Phillips screwdriver. All right, we have to build 2 of these. I'm gonna put the next one together, then we'll secure it to the top. Be right back. We've got our 2 pieces of decorative trim assembled that we just showed you how to do. Now what you're gonna do is lay these on top. See, one for each side. Get these edges, these interior edges should all line up. See, this is nice and flush here. Move that over a little bit, nice and flush there. So what we're going to do is get this, we'll start a couple screws to hold it in place before we put all the screws in. So I'm getting this side flush right here. We're flush here, that looks good. So let's put a couple screws in the corner. To hold that in place. Make sure we're still good over here. Hold that in place, very nice. Now we'll come down here again. Make sure that we're flush. Put a screw in to hold it down. Nice. Come over here. Make sure that's flush and get a screw in. So now we'll take our other piece and butt it up against here. Let's take a quick look down here. This side is nice and flush also, so the parts are cut pretty well. Everything's fitting together well. I like what I'm seeing. Good quality cuts on the wood. Secure this. Secure this. You see me pulling the wood together and holding it in place so you don't get a gap there. And we'll come down here. Make sure all of this is flush and lined up the way it's supposed to be. All right, so as you can see, there's a bunch of empty holes here. I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the screws in, and we'll do the very last thing. See, I laid out all of my screws, put them in the hole. I'm just going to run around and run them down with my drill. Again, this is why I like to use a drill. When you're putting in this many screws, it just saves a lot of time. Again, just make sure you're careful that you don't over drill and split the wood. I mean, I could set my drill here, right? I could reduce the amount of torque so that it doesn't put too much torque on the screw, but I prefer to just run it down and hand tighten them. I like to feel how tight the screws are when they go into the wood, but that's just me. All right, now we'll run around with the screwdriver and make sure they're all nice and tight. Okay, final step. It comes with this nice little set of hooks here, right, for putting your garden tools or rag, whatever you have that you're out there working with. So you can put it on either side, doesn't matter. It's just going to go right here. You're going to kind of want to center it, right? If you can see, I'm about the same amount of boards from either side. I'm trying to make sure that my screw holes are in the center of this wood. I don't want to put it in one of these seams in between here. So I'm picking that spot right there. So let me get some screws out. Let's see what we can do to get this going. Put that back where I had it. That looks good. Again, this is one of those things where it kind of would have been nice if the manufacturer would have put some pilot holes in the screw or in the wood to make getting the screw started a little easier, but not a big deal. This wood is soft. You can see it doesn't take a lot for me to get the screw started and get it in. And there we go. All right. And the last piece. And we're done. So I have to say, I'm really impressed with the way this went together. As it went together, I'm thinking it was a little flimsy, but after putting this top rail on it, it's very sturdy. You see me, it doesn't wobble. The legs are all even, touching the ground. Looks really nice. I can't wait to put some dirt in it and put some plants in it and see how it all works out. So if you would like to get this, we'll have all of the links below. Also a coupon code, THIS10, that's THIS10, that'll also be in the link below. So when you go to the Garvee website, you can get this, you can find this, we'll have the link to it, and again, get a discount. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the product that we put together. Be sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.